Hello, everyone. This is Top 4 episode 283. I have no idea how long AEW Collision's been going on, like 30 minutes. I know the G1's going on right now. Please go check out those G1 predictions from yesterday. But we are 7 days away from the greatest tournament in all of women's wrestling. And you guys are probably asking, why do you have so much energy? It's because I love Joshi wrestling. It's because I love tournaments. And you guys already know, where there's a tournament, where there's a podcast, there is talk for glory. Introduction of the must. I'm Enigma V4, and like I do for tournaments, I can't do this alone. So welcome reoccurring guest from Red Belt Radio, Jason.
Hey, Enigma V4. I'm super excited to be back here for the third consecutive 5-star preview. You know, we got real close last year. My pick made the semifinals. Your pick made the finals. We're right there at calling this thing. So hopefully third time's the charm.
Now, as you guys may or may not know, the tournament we'll be talking about is a bunch of 5-star matches, so the name is appropriate. Welcome to the Stardom 5-Star Grand Prix predictions. You guys already know that when there's a tournament, there's normally 2 blocks, but this tournament has 4. So we're gonna have to talk about a lot of wrestling. We're going to be talking about a lot of blocks. So to start us off, we're going to be talking about Red Star's A block. We're going to be talking about the Empress, a former World of Stardom champion, Micah, the former World of Stardom champion, Sayaka Carrara, the Pink Devil herself, Rena. Oh, I can't remember the name of the championship she just won. I think the JTO Girls Champion, but she is a new champion in JTO. She's a flight risk in Stardom. There's agendas for her to join another faction. Representing God's Eye, Tomoka Inaba. I want to say Stardom's loudest wrestler, Itsuke Oki. Probably butchered that. The leader of Hate. I don't even know if she cares about winning this. Natsuko Tora. The qualifier, the person that qualified, I believe, this morning, I think it's Akira Kuragane. I might be wrong on that, but you guys can fact check me if you want. And yes, I did this on purpose. The last but not least, the high-speed bomb girl, the high-speed AC undeniable future. Honestly, better than your favorite, your mother's favorite. Maybe my pick again for maybe the 3rd or 4th consecutive year of doing this. Not AZM, you fucks. It is Azumi. Gotta
hell yeah.
But Jason, can you tell me, how do you feel about Micah's 2026 from, let's say, January to now? What are her chances and everything?
Well, Micah is coming into this tournament in quite an intriguing spot because she missed last year's 5-star due to injury, but her 2024 run was the stuff of legend. This year has been a bit unexpected when it comes to Micah. She came back from injury, seemed like she had Hate in her sights. She had Natsuko Tora in her sights. She had Sayaka Mitani in her sights. Something changed abruptly, and she spent most of this year pretty much fighting against Mi Vida Loca and Suzu Suzuki. Now, that all being said, I do think that Micah has quite a bit of momentum right now because alongside Hanako, I felt like she just put an action-packed Goddess of Stardom title match right before us. So I think that's going to really energize her. And based on, this field, she is absolutely going to be tested, and we're going to learn real quick if she's still at that level that she was the last time we saw her in the 5-star.
Oh, dude, perfectly said. I honestly want to say, since Micah's return, actually, I thought she would be main event status from the jump, but I believe Micah's played more of a side character or more of a team player role, I'd rather say, as she did focus on the war with Mi Vida Loca, and her highlights really do come in the form of tag teaming with Hanako, along with some US tours as well. But 5-star is Micah season as well. So I'm hoping to see a much more laser-focused version of her. Now this is interesting. The 2026 of Sayaka Kurara. Wow. Wow. I am at a loss for words. I actually a little uncertain is the best word to put, as Sayaka Kurara kind of, well, what some people would say a suicide mission. She defeated the big bad of Stardom. She defeated the final boss. And I guess everything since Stardom All-Star Grand Queendom is just Kurara's epilogue. So I don't know how she will fare in the 5-star. How about you?
Well, I totally understand not having a lot to go off of or having a lot to say, being at a loss for words. Funnily enough, I actually have more to say about Sayaka Kurata than most of these competitors. As you mentioned, the highest of highs, Stardom's biggest show of all time, All-Star Grand Queendom, defeating Sayakami Tani, one of the most legendary and successful reigns in Stardom, and then also the lowest of lows, losing the red belt title, I believe, on her birthday at the conversion, and not really getting a chance to solidify herself as a memorable champion in the way that we've seen so many red belt champions in the past. Now, this is what I think is going on with Sayaka Kurata. And this might sound like a strong opinion, but I think on one hand, everyone is actually underestimating Kurata in this tournament. And on the other hand, I think that Sayaka Kurata has a huge problem in this tournament. And I'll try to explain what I mean. I think when people remember Sayaka Kurata in the 5-star, they think back to her performance last year. And her performance last year was really, really underwhelming. She won just a couple of matches, and she had pretty much the biggest fall off in her block. And I think there's a mistake that could be made with assuming that that is the standard for her. But at the same time, we really forget that that was a surprising result for Sayaka Kurata at the time. She had just won the Cinderella tournament back in March of 2025. So she was going into the 5-star with a bit of an elevated station. And in fact, if we look at the years 2025 and we look at 2026, Sayaka Kurata arguably is actually one of the most formidable tournament wrestlers in Stardom. She did win the 2025 Cinderella. She also won the 2025 Goddess of Stardom Tag League. And this year she made it to the quarterfinals of the Cinderella. And so I think if we only focus on the low points of Sayaka Kurata's career, we kind of miss the fact that her booking is so volatile. She will have a low point. She will have a fall from grace, but then she will experience these huge upswings. And we've been seeing that on and off for the past, I want to say, year and a half about. Now that that's out of the way, the other side of this is that Sayaka Kurata and Aya Sakura have both been promoted, we might say, within the Cosmic Angels faction. They have some sort of approximate co-leader role right now. They've been elected by the other members to represent the faction sort of at the front of the unit formation. And I don't think it would make sense to have either of these wrestlers just be viewed as new blood tag division fighters or underdogs anymore. I think the booking is actually very likely going to reflect the fact that these two have been promoted more or less within Cosmic Angels. Now, I mentioned that I think Sayaka Kurata has a huge problem in this tournament. And what I mean by that is if we look at her actual schedule in the 5-star, a lot of her matches are happening at sort of the front half of the 5-star schedule. And she's literally going to be kind of waiting around for the other wrestlers in her block to finish up their matches. And then we'll tally up all the final points with everyone in the block itself. So what I'm kind of expecting with Sayaka Kurata is something that happened last year in a block that looked very similar to this one, that had Kurata in it, but also had Rina in it. The Red Stars block from last year was the Group of Death in 2025, and it had all kinds of big names. But out of that group, Rina surprised everyone and shocked everyone by taking an early lead. She had this undefeated rally in the first half of the tournament. And I think she led with something like 8 points or maybe 10 points and no losses up to that point. And I think we might see a similar sort of repeating of that pattern, except this time it might in fact be someone like Sayaka Kurata getting a really early lead, because she's going to have match after match after match starting in late July. And she's going to be the one sitting back, seeing if anyone can catch up to her later. I don't think that rally will necessarily continue through to the second half of the block matches, but I'm actually looking at her to kind of be like a bat out of hell at the beginning of this and make a statement that she's very determined and maybe rise up among the rest of this field here in Red Stars A and really challenge everyone to try and match her pace. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about with Kurata. Obviously, a lot of variables to process, and I could be way off, and she might just still be in a depression state and unable to fire. But I think that she's one to watch for sure. I really have high hopes for her.
Yeah, I'm glad that you do, because again, I am just so confused as to where does Kurara go from this. But you are selling me the dream to not believe in Tam, but to believe in Kurara. And honestly, Kurara, looking at the names that she's facing, one thing I like to point out in every 5-star is what block has 5-star match potential and what what blocks have red belt champions, because beating former or the current World of Stardom champion is no easy feat. And I do want to say that on some level, Kurara is kind of sitting on top of a mountain. I want to say above the likes of like Tomoka and Azumi and Aoki, like even Rina. And Rina has been amazing over these last couple of years, but she hasn't been World of Stardom champion. The people that have been World of Stardom champion are Maika and Natsuko and Kurara. So even though I do think she's going to be fighting from down under, she is on a high position in the hierarchy of the block.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the red belt champions, because we're in such a different field this year. Last year, if you'll recall, there were only 3 current or former red belt champions across the entire tournament. And fortunately for us as viewers, this year, every single block has at least one current or former red belt champion. So a complete changing of the status quo.
Yeah, that's actually like a really good positive. So a lot of people's stocks will rise from beating a former or the current World of Stardom champion. But then I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, you've done a good job. I'm now sold on Kurara stocks. Will she win? We're going to have to talk about that later. But next after Kurara is, and again, I forgot what new championship it is. My apologies. But representing God's Eye for how long, I don't know. But Tomoka Inaba.
Yeah, congrats to Tomoka Inaba. Just as on July 10th, so this is really, really recent, defeating Mirai at that JTO show at Korakuen Hall, which apparently was very commercially successful for them. So just hats off to her and the entire promotion. I'm actually considering Tomoka Inaba to be my pick for sort of like the spoiler role in this block. She's going to be facing a lot of bigger names, high profile names, kind of later on in the later stages. And she's got a lot of revenge that she could possibly claim against some people. She's going to be facing Azumi on the 25th of July. And that's somebody that she's kind of contended with in the tournament stage, but I feel hasn't really ever had a chance to show up Azumi, if that makes sense. She's also going to be facing Maika on the 26th. This is somebody that she challenged for the red belt back in 2024. And then in the late stages on August 9th, she's facing Rina. And that's someone that defeated her last year at last year's 5-star GP. So I think Tomoka can kind of shock these opponents and get even with them if she's able to rally, because she's going to have a real tough, I predict she's going to have a tough sort of early few matches. She's facing some of these bigger and more formidable physical wrestlers. So I'm looking for her to kind of upset the apple cart and really mess with the standings. And we know she's skilled enough to do that and really put on a show this year.
I just want to highlight what Al said in the comments that Tomoka might play as the sleeper here. And I have to agree with that. I will even say that I believe Tomoka will be the dark horse. I think a lot of people kind of blitz past Tomoka's accomplishments and accolades in terms of matches. I think Tomoka will be able to perform the same way she did in 2024, as I think Tomoka Naba was probably like in the top 5 like best performers in that year's GP. And in terms of like matches, I don't ever think Tomoka's gonna miss. Also, huge shout out on beating Mirai. That match was spectacular. I'm actually surprised she didn't win off the Kishi Kaisei, but damn it was still great. Shout out Kashima. But Tomoka Naba this year has really been an emotional roller coaster, honestly, for me. Because on one hand, I'm on the fence of maybe she's going to walk into Stardom with the Queen of JTO Championship again. Or maybe she's going to spend more time in Stardom. Maybe she's going to be Taka Michinoku. The thing that I like about Tomoka, no matter where you watch her, she's very unpredictable.
Yeah, the skill set is so deep with the various submissions that she can pull out, and she can really stop an opponent's momentum with a well-placed head kick, or even with the Michinoku driver itself. She can really catch people on their way in and use it as a counterattack. So I think she's able to mix things up. Her offense is very well-rounded, and that can throw the opponent off and get her an advantage that they weren't expecting. And as far as like what she can do as a dark horse, I think you're absolutely right. I don't want to get too far into predictions, but with this block, there is one slot, we might say, of the 3 that escape that's really, really hard for me to call. It's like on a razor's edge. And so she's very much viable for occupying that spot. So it's just a question of will she or won't she?
Damn, that is good. But all right, so that was only for Tomoka. Next is Itsuki Aoki. And I love Aoki matches. I think they're wild and zany and just as unpredictable as Tomoka is. But in terms of how she's been booked in Stardom specifically, it's neither been good nor bad. And if anything, she is what I like to call a underrated threat. Because if you watch her matches, she's pretty brutal. Her style is very unforgiving. Maybe she'll love you before and after the match, but during the match, it's no mercy. And
yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and this being the 5-star, I expect little to no mercy coming from her.
It has been a bit surprising with Mi Vida Loca. They've challenged for the artist belts, and then she also challenged for the goddess belts. But in terms of championship success, they've only just recently experienced that here in Stardom with Suzu Suzuki. And it is cool to see 2 other members of, well, actually 3 now that Akira is in, 3 other members of the faction aside from Suzu here. With this block, Itsuki Aoki is occupying possibly that comedian role. But like you said, I think she has an opportunity to get around the expectations of some viewers, and against people like Micah, against people like Natsuko Tora, against these real power wrestlers, she could put on some of the best action, arguably, on the red side if everything lines up and that's what they're going for. She has the potential to do that. So I'll definitely keep watch and see how she does.
I think that was everything that I had for her. Again, like she's very unpredictable. There's not much I can say, but she has my curiosity. I can definitely say that. But in the most unbiased conversation we're about to have, thoughts on Izumi's 2026?
I mean, I'm very, very impressed with the O2 line title reign so far. They had such a strong matchup against FWC. I mean, any team that has to defend against FWC as their first defense, you know they're under the gun. And then I feel like they kept the defense quality at a really high level with this recent Karakuan Hall defense against Micah and Hanako. So Azumi, you kind of already know what you're getting. She is so consistent with her skill level. She makes so much of her performance look effortless, and she's so creative in there that you mentioned Tomoka Inaba, but as a tournament wrestler, I think Azumi is very, very watchable. She remembers the history with some of her greatest foes, and that plays in to her psychological warfare in the match and her tactics. And she really rewards you for paying close attention. So people that she rematches, like the Rinas, the Sayaka Kuradas, the Tomoka Inabas in this block, I think those matches will actually be better if you've seen the what came before and see how they mix it up and add upon the history that's established. So obviously very, very excited to see what she does.
I couldn't agree with you more. And one thing I also enjoy about Azumi's transitioning from everything she's done from O2 line to what she'll be doing in the future for the 5-star is it's almost like a transition in styles. I believe Azumi is more of a technical wrestler when it comes to her singles work rather than being a giant team player whenever she's doing O2 line or Neo Gen three-way tag matches. So to see Azumi go from her high speed / team player style to eventual technical style, I like that you don't really see the other wrestlers adjusting to it. They've been facing Azumi from January to, I would say maybe Aprilish, on this high speed and tag team style to the point where when we see Azumi bust out submissions and limb targeting, it's almost like she forces her opponents to get lost. And I can definitely see like the Rinas and the Tokumanabas and Saka Kara, hell, even the Micahs getting a little sidetracked. Like, this isn't the style I fought last month or 2 months ago.
And I just want to jump in with one other thing pertaining to Azumi, because this is the first wrestler we're talking about that could potentially play into what I'm going to call the Queen's Quest lore of this tournament. And Stardom seems a bit interested in reminding us of the Queen's Quest lore ever since Utami Hayashishita returned. So we'll just keep an eye out for each block. Now that I'm looking at it, we have a little bit of Queen's Quest lore pretty much in every single block of this particular tournament. So we'll start with Azumi and see where it goes.
I'm so glad you say that. Viewers, listeners, in case you guys haven't noticed the thumbnail, it is insanely unbiased in what I'm about to talk about later. But yes, be on the watch out for any QQ signs throughout this video and throughout these conversations. Speaking of QQ, let's talk about QQ's biggest hater, Natsuko Tora.
Yeah, quite a hater. And also when it comes to the GP, you really never know what you're going to get. She was one of the scariest threats in the 2023 5-star. Then she didn't even show up for the 2024 5-star. She just dipped out. And then last year, she kind of floated somewhere in the middle. She beat a lot of people you would have expected her to beat, but she also let some of those wins slip through her fingers. So
definitely did.
Absolutely a wild card. With these tournaments, you really want to keep your eyes on the hate wrestlers. When we look at any of the Cinderella tournaments or the 5-stars since hate is formed, they have some pretty solid faction representation with people that advance and so on and so forth. So it's not set in stone that Natsuko will be one of those. I did mention how I feel like in this block, there's this one sort of open spot for a wrestler to occupy. And I'm kind of thinking she might have a chance this time. It's really curious. It's kind of a gamble, but just don't turn your back on Natsuko Tora. That's just good life advice in general.
I like that. I really do, because I've been seeing Natsuko Tora, even though she's a giant cheater and she'll probably get herself DQ'd, I feel as though if Natsuko Tora openly chooses to wanting to win, she could make it very far. it's all about if she wants to, beat Micah and Azumi and Kurara and even Rina. But that's gonna have to be a wait and see kind of deal. Now, I don't know if this is exact, so I'm going to assume Akira Kurogane is in Red Stars A. I know she beat Kyoka Katatsu. Congratulations. So I think she's in Red Stars A. Don't quote me on that. But Akira Kurogane, I am very excited. I think I've had a change of mind from, I want to say, last year with the whole, like, there were a lot of people where I did say I don't think they should be in the 5-star. But now I'm also looking at the 5-star as a way to accelerate growth. And I think Akira Kurogane can use the 5-star to get better, so much so to the point of, who knows, by the end of this, win, lose, finals, immediate eliminate, doesn't matter. I could see Akira aftermath being, I've gotten strong, I think I'm ready to take the Futures title. After all, the Future of Stardom champion is not in the 5-star.
That's right. The Future of Stardom champion is currently touring the United States and trying to whoop some ass across the globe. So there is a bit of time for would-be challengers to try and level up, as you said, gain some XP and maybe stake their claim. And Akira is absolutely a front runner for your next Future of Stardom champion. I do want to just put a placeholder and make sure that we do talk about Rina, because we may have skipped her on the list.
Oh, no, I made her last on purpose.
Oh, okay. My bad. In terms of Akira, I'm so struck by her level of intensity, confidence, and just whatever angst she's developed over her lifetime. It's absolutely manifested in this character and in her matches. She almost Jedi mind tricks you into thinking that she can beat people in this block. But even if she scores 0 points in this block, I think her stock will rise just with the performances that she gives and how much the crowds start to support her, especially against some of these really fearsome people like Natsuko Tora and so forth.
Oh yeah, I'm really hoping that, like you said, I hope she gains that XP. But I like that you use video game logic, because I want to talk about Rina and how much XP she's gained. Not even on, like, from January to now, like on an upcoming day. It's like she's leveling up by the day, by the match. I'm really high on Rina this year. She has had no championship success this year compared to previous years where she was either Futures or New Bloods or Artists. I believe this year she walked into 2026 a defending Artist champion, but Rina has been heavily considered for already, like, Wonder of Stardom championship runs and maybe even Red Belt runs, and she is a 2-time Cinderella finalist. You talked about Kurara having wins in the Cinderella and the Goddess Tag League, but Rina is not that far. She's, like, close but no cigar. If Rina has a tournament to show that my time is soon but not now, I think it actually is the 5-star Grand Prix.
Yeah, arguably the most impressive performance of last year's 5-star GP. She won 4 different trophies on top of the fact that she went on that undefeated rally for so long in the block competition. So Rina's absolutely been firing on all cylinders for the longest time now. And she is going to be one of the most important wrestlers in this tournament. We're going to see if she's going to be able to maintain that level of results compared to the finals performance she gave in this year's Cinderella as well as last year's. But this year's really is defining for her, because not only did she face her sister Hanan in the finals, not only did they put on an epic match, but the fact that she got to the finish line twice in a row and couldn't cross it. And she's become so heartbroken by that. She also lost the Wonder of Stardom challenge against Konami earlier. She is truly on just that last leg of trying to break through and prove to everyone that this roller coaster ride has not been a mistake. It's not been for nothing. She might be able to realize her destiny, maybe even in this tournament. So the question just is, can she repeat these amazing performances and get out of her block yet again and get about as far as possible, which she's been determined to do since last year and really hasn't stopped?
Yeah, it's all about if and when and maybe. Honestly, Rena might, if she doesn't win the GP, she might be like the 5-star MVP for me. But that was everyone in Red Star's A block. So, Jason, like the G1, like the 5 stars, like every other tournament, we've got to pick a name. We've got to grab someone out of here and get them into the semis. So, Jason, please, you first. Out of everyone we've discussed, have I convinced you on anyone? Have you convinced me on anyone? Who's going to the semis out of Red Stars A for you?
Okay, let me take a look at my list of predictions here. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to start with who I think is escaping the block, and then I will go to the semifinals from there. So it's really, really, really hard to pick who's getting out of this block. I mentioned how the wrestlers from Hate are wrestlers to keep your eye on, and wrestlers who have performed very, very well in previous tournaments are also people to keep your eye on. But I looked at some of the matches that are going to be happening towards the end of the tournament. I actually looked at like all of the matches taking place on August 16th, which is literally the last day of block competition. And then I tried to look at some of the shows before that, because those matches, the tiebreaker type matches, the ones that get somebody those extra 2 points or block somebody from getting those last 2 points, I think are going to be really, really pivotal. And so a little drum roll here for who I believe is getting out of this block. We will start with...
Oh, wait, you did say drum roll, so I got you with that.
You got one?
Yes, this is why I love StreamYard, guys. Because we can do that. Where are you?
All right, the first wrestler I have advancing from Red Stars A is in fact the Pink Devil Rena, escaping this block, making it into the next phase of the competition. After Rena, I have someone who is no stranger to Talk for Glory, no stranger to this channel. I have the high-speed bomb girl, Azumi, making it out of this block, trying to make the Queen's Quest lore a reality. And then I mentioned that strange placeholder spot. For a while, I had Sayaka Kurata in this spot. For a while, I did, in fact, have Tomoka Inaba in this spot. And I think either of them could occupy it. But right now, based on the schedule and based on just a guess, I guess we'll say, I am going with the intelligent monster, Natsuko Tora, making it out of Red Stars A as well. Now, do you want me to skip to the semifinals, or should we revisit the semifinals after we've talked over every block? Because I can go either way with that.
Oh, we're gonna revisit this when we get to the semifinals. That's when you talk about your matches and eliminate, and then we'll talk about the final four.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, so my big three to make it, they're gonna be a little different than yours, but I'm gonna have Tomoka and Naba make it through. Like I always say, completely unbiased, Azumi make it through. And because of you, Jason, you've sold me the dream. I actually have Sayaka Kurara making it through. Honestly,
Well,
I think those three are... They're going to be a three-way deadlock, and it's going to be hard to see who makes it into the semis.
Yeah, and we should definitely place a caveat that this tournament is so hard to call. And there are a lot of different paths that the tournament can go. I think there's something of an obvious final that, could be an option. And overall, like, my vision for this tournament is a little less obvious. So it will require some upsets to happen and some left turns to be made, we'll say.
Okay, so that was everyone for Red Star's A block. Next is Red Star's B block. And this is the block of badasses in my eyes, where we have returning to Stardom, the cool, royal, beautiful Utami Hayashishita. She technically is also unaffiliated. The submission sniper Konami, the Jacked Gorilla Saida, the Human Tower Lady C, the Queen of JTO champion Azusa Naba, I like to call her Stardom Shooting Star. It's May Sierra. I don't know what nickname's Rini Yamashita. She is Joshi Deathmatch incarnate. And then the cutest in the universe, Maki Ito. This is confusing in my eyes, because how do we talk about Utami's 6 months?
Yeah, good question. Why don't you start?
Okay, so as someone who likes to watch Marigold every once in a blue, I think Utami's first, I want to say 3 months, so January to March, has been a season of coasting. Utami Hayashishita puts on banger after banger. That's true. That's undeniable. But you had this feeling that she was just, again, coasting. She was chilling. And it took coming back to the Wonder Ring to find that purpose. Now, I'm not going to go too much in detail into what that purpose is, but I can say that now back in the Stardom Ring, that it feels good to see Utami have that fire back on her that wasn't as lit as it was in Marigold. But as we go further in the conversation, you guys will make sure to see that fire of the Red Queen.
Yeah, you mentioned sort of like the pacing of the beginning of her year, but since she has joined Stardom, I really feel like they haven't wasted any time whatsoever with Utami Hayashishita. Booked quite strongly. I believe her only clean loss right now was against Suzu Suzuki, and the other losses involved a lot of hate shenanigans. She's already challenged for the red belt against Suzu Suzuki. She's already been in a match with Sayakami Tani where she actually pinned Sayakami Tani at the end of that match. So that result happened a lot faster than I expected. And I think one might even question if that is the best way to go about this. But the story is not over, obviously. So Utami is entering this tournament as a force of nature, I would argue. And you could kind of make the case that in this particular block, all eyes kind of are on Utami Hayashishita, but many eyes are also going to be on Maki Ito, a real crowd favorite. And they share this in common, that these matchups are going to look very fresh and very unique. In Utami's case, because she hasn't been here in so long, and in Maki's case, because she's a bit of a new recruit to Stardom, just started up this year. So Utami absolutely is somebody that will be contributing to the story of the 5-star. And I mentioned that obvious 5-star GP final. And in my opinion, the obvious 5-star GP final does have Utami Hayashishita on one side of it.
Oh, perfect. I am so excited when we get to finals. That's perfect. But now let's talk about Konami. Wow. The submission sniper. One of my top 5 favorites in Stardom. Honestly, I thought she would still be white belt champion by now. As you guys remember me saying for Stardom All-Star Grand Queendom predictions, that it took Konami 10 years to finally get that singles title, and it would take another 10 years to get the belt off of her. 10 years came too soon, but I think the most dangerous version of Konami is a locked-in Konami. And we saw what she did to try to get to the Wonder of Stardom Championship, attempt after attempt after attempt. And even though this is before Talk for Glory started talking about Stardom here on the channel, Konami is a former she is a former GP finalist. I think Konami in the 5-star Grand Prix, post Wonder of Stardom Championship, lit a fire into her that maybe she's realized the Wonder is great, it has value, but I think it just made her hungrier. So don't be surprised if the sniper claws and scrapes and spray cans her way to the finals.
Very well said. And that's very cool that she's in your top 5. If we really think about Konami's amazing career resurgence and these high points in her career, now that we're talking about it, I really think that all began with last year's 5-star, where on the opening night, she got that shocking victory against Sari and earned the right to become an IWGP title challenger. And you mentioned the submission game. One of the deadliest submission threats. We've seen that rear naked choke take out the strongest of fighters possible. Konami as white belt champion was such a, I guess in retrospect, it was mostly surprising beforehand as she began to campaign for challenging SLK a second time. I did start to see the writing on the wall and that this was possible. A real standout white belt title reign with the defiling of the wrestler portraits. She kind of created this museum art gallery exhibit of spray painted wrestlers. And so it'll be fun to see how she gets into the mix of this particular block, because this block has a lot of comedic potential. It's got some underdogs taking up, a role. So she's going to be one of the primary villains here. And I think she's going to do likely a very strong job of occupying that role.
Oh, well, that's actually perfect. Konami is the villain of Stardom, honestly. Like, she is the underground villain that no one pays attention to until it's too late.
Well said.
Now let's talk about the Mountain Gorilla, Saida. If memory serves right, Saida has only held the Future of Stardom Championship. But the thing I like about Saida, her matches, her presence, her presentation, everything, is that I feel as though I can never wake up and you tell me she's won a singles title. I would not be surprised. If anything, I wake up every day thinking she's only won Futures. And I think the GP is the perfect tournament to show everyone that, hey, Saida should win something like the High Speed, the Wonder, the World, IWGP, Strong even. I think Saida is probably the most underrated wrestler currently in this block.
Yeah, she hasn't historically had a lot of opportunities as a singles competitor. That has definitely changed with her challenging Konami for the white belt and then also challenging for the strong belt in Las Vegas against Alex Windsor. She's absolutely going to be one of the fan favorites, I imagine, inside of this block, along with probably Maki Ito as well. And this is a true opportunity for her to shine. These 5-star GP tournaments really get the viewer to appreciate Saida for not only her physical prowess, but her just out of this world selling ability. She's actually quite agile and fast as well. And the matchup in terms of stature against a lot of these opponents will be really kind of amusing to see her standing across from Lady C, who's going to absolutely tower over her. No pun intended. Will also contribute to this quite a bit, I think.
There's more I want to say about Saida, but I'm going to have to put that on pause for now. For now, we're going to have to talk about the Human Tower and Lady C. Talk about a 180 in character, in motivation, in grind, in accomplishments. The Lady C of today could probably beat the Lady C of over the last 5 years. Newfound confidence, and I love that. A champion. Would Lady C be a champion one day? Absolutely. Did we think that day was coming anytime soon? I don't think so. But my God, Lady C is never give up spirit. And the 5-star is the perfect spot to showcase that spirit.
And that spirit has certainly paid off for Lady C. The thing that was never, ever, ever, ever on my bingo card was the fact that she would walk into the 5-star in her block as, I believe, the only holder of a Stardom belt amidst all 8 of these competitors right now. So this is truly just the absolute wackiest timeline possible. But she's now going to have some confidence to back up that spirit. Last year in the 5-star, we kind of expected her to not score a lot of points, and we were kind of correct about that. But this time we can have optimism, and she's finally going to be able to use that size advantage to actually get results here. And she might be able to push some people around. She might actually be able to push around someone like Maki Ito. And now that she's stepping up to Azusa Inaba with a belt in her hands, I think that match will take on a whole new characteristic, because I think they shared a block last year, and Azusa was just not willing to take her very seriously.
I believe they also faced in the first round of the Cinderella.
Oh, you might be right about that.
I remember the press conference, I'm like talking smack to each other.
Oh, yes. Of course. How could I forget?
Yeah, Azusa is well, I guess this is a great segue to move to Azusa then. Azusa is not underrated, but she is a star that we are watching just constantly rise. At 18 years old, she's really only getting better. And she just faced the Phoenix Queen, Sais Kamitani, little over 24 hours ago, and what was a stellar match in another promotion. And she's faced Saya in last year's GP. Honestly, the sky's the limit for Azusa Inaba. And although she is a champion of a different promotion, don't be surprised if she gets some upset victories over a Saya Ida or a Lady C, or maybe even a May Sierra. Azusa Inaba is going to show why the future is a lot closer than we think.
Yeah, fortunately for Azusa, she made it into the semifinals of last year's Cinderella tournament. So there is precedent with Stardom being willing to push her and put her on a big platform on the tournament stage and the tournament scene. Now that you've been talking about her facing Saya Kamitani just a couple days, or not really even a couple days ago, but on July 10th, and facing her last year, I'm actually starting to think that possibly a sleeper match in Red Stars B will be none other than Azusa Inaba versus Konami. So 2 people within the same faction. They are absolutely willing to color outside the lines and bend the rules. And then, of course, we've got strikes versus strikes, submissions versus submissions, and we have experience versus youth, which could make that a bit more electric than I had first thought.
Oh, yeah, we do get Azusa versus Konami. And as someone who always talks about how much I love Shuri versus Tomoka Inaba, and Shuri versus just anyone with a judo background in God's Eye, Azusa barely gets to fight other members that have like a fighting background. So her versus Konami is maybe even a dream come true for Azusa. What's another dream come true for Azusa? If anything, I think Azusa versus Utami is an underrated match. Rina Yamashita is probably going to have a field day with Azusa, as Rina tends to be a jokester, trickster, but don't get her too serious. But we're just going to have to watch the match when it comes to Azusa. But speaking of a jokester and a trickster, let's talk about May Sierra. Good vibes, new look, new tattoo, apparently. How does May fare?
This is a strange one, because May Sarah, in the past, as high-speed champion, of course, and during that period of time last year, was truly just not only impressive as ever, but she had a bit of an intimidation factor, at least in that division. You really weren't sure if those challengers who stood against her were going to have a legitimate chance of beating her. And that's why it took Yuna Mizumori so long, such an epic, just prolonged saga of trying to challenge for that belt. And it took 3 tries at the high-speed title to actually dethrone May Sarah. And ever since then, we haven't seen her play her cards on the title scene nearly as much as I would have expected. And this year has been a little quieter, in my opinion, for May Sarah. But that is definitely subject to change because she is right now one of the primary candidates to be challenging Hanan for the white belt. But she's also got a bit of a grudge against our current red belt champion, Suzu Suzuki. So I think she's going to be entering this tournament with quite a lot to prove. I think she's going to want to send a message. And because she's absolutely the fastest wrestler in this block, all of her matches are going to have that unique characteristic going, where she's going to be able to do those super impressive, very sort of finesse and speed-based attacks that's going to confuse and probably frustrate her opponents all throughout this tournament.
I like that you point out that May has kind of had like a quiet couple months, because I thought the same thing literally up until last night's show, where Suzu kind of just gets into it with her former stable in Neo Genesis, and it kind of did change how I was walking into this predictions video. But I believe a fire just got lit under May, and as much as we all enjoyed the high-speed antics, and apparently she started, giving people the bird, I think May Sierra has found purpose. And now it's probably up to everyone else to try and put out May's fire before she potentially gets to Suzu.
Well, good luck to them. That's easier said than done.
But now the tricksters aren't over, because now we have Rina Yamashita of Mi Vida Loca.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking forward to seeing what she brings to this tournament. And the main reason that I say that is because I feel like she had an absolutely memorable and action-packed IWGP title match with Shuri. We really didn't get a lot of chance to promote that match. They didn't get to share a lot of ring time or promos to build that match up. And I feel like they both kind of knew the assignment. They knew that they were going to have to make a statement in the ring pretty much right when the bell sounded. And the way that they attacked each other with grappling techniques and just had this very quiet intensity and staring at each other and trying to match each other with this super physically intense and unforgiving style, I think was truly like applause worthy, and a total standout match at that event, and a standout match in Shuri's IWGP reign. And so Rina Yamashita, kind of like her compatriot Itsuki Aoki, can play both sides of the spectrum. Some of these matches will probably crack us up, but some of these other matches will probably also make us wince and recoil at how violent they might actually be. It just depends which switch Rina Yamashita wants to flip. And so if she's facing someone like Konami, she might go the violence route. But if she's facing someone like Maki Ito, I think pure entertainment awaits us.
Yes, all perfect 2 matches. From serious to jokes, from cries of pain to straight up laughter. Those are my 2 matches I'm now looking forward to the most. But now talking about Maki Ito, and I saw in the comment section, damn it, I'm starting to forget, what month did Maki Ito join? Was it February?
I'm pretty sure she joined in January.
Okay, so right at the beginning of the year then. Maki Ito, the cutest in the universe. Honestly, the biggest surprise in Joshi this year. As from promo packages and the guessing game of who's that, to Brooklyn Hole blasting in Croken Hall. Even though Maki Ito has not had championship success, unsuccessful attempts at capturing both the World of Stardom and Artist of Stardom championships, Maki Ito has been like one of Stardom's loudest players this year. Like, you can't talk about Stardom 2026 without Maki Ito.
It's kind of a cliche to say like she took this promotion by storm, but I really do think she took this promotion by storm. And she has so many ideas and so many concepts for how she wants to approach various rivalries, how she wants to build up the next big match that she has. And it just seems like the fans are completely on board for pretty much everything she comes up with. And it's one surprise after another. Definitely a lot of laughs along the way. And the Ito Respect Army is quickly gaining followers and supporters worldwide. So her coming into this tournament could just be pure chaos, to be honest. I actually have her listed as what I would consider the spoiler wrestler in this block, because with her schedule, she's going to be facing some very, very impressive names towards the tail end. She is going to be facing Utami Hayashishita on August 9th. And then that very last day of block competition, she's going to be facing Konami on August 16th. So she might just kind of slip through the cracks and stop people cold by denying them those crucial couple of points that they might need to get through. So don't underestimate her, especially if you are in this block and expecting to make it out.
Yeah, that's really all I can think about when it comes to Maki Ito, and you said it perfectly. If there's one match I probably want to say that like I'm on the edge of my seat for when it comes to Maki Ito, it's her versus Mei Sierra. Maki Ito is laughs and vibes, and Mei again is a trickster. So you never know if you're gonna get that serious high speed mode, or she just might want to laugh around with Mei. But who knows if she's down to clown.
That's a good point. And it's could kind of go 50-50. Like if you were going to guess like one wrestler frustrating the other with their style, I could equally see Mei Sarah being frustrated by Maki Ito as I could seeing Maki Ito being completely frustrated by Mei Sarah. So that one's definitely something I'm looking forward to.
So now that we've talked about everything in Red Star's A block, let's pick our big three. Would you like to go first?
Sure, I can absolutely go first. Are we doing more drum rolls or should I just get right into it?
I mean, I'm glad you said that because my finger's on the drum roll button anyways. So, Jason's big three is...
All right, advancing from Red Stars B. I'll start with the least surprising. To continue our Queen's Quest lore, I've got Utami Hayashishita advancing from Red Stars B. But that is not all. We've been talking about someone who needs to place a stamp on the singles division because it's been a while since they've held the Future of Stardom title. That's why I am going with none other than Saya Iida escaping this block. And now we need to really mix things up in the 5-star. We've talked about the presence of hate and factions and how they're represented with who can get through are always a big deal. And that's why things need to get a little crazy. Dare I say a little loca? I've got Rina Yamashita shocking a lot of people and making it out of this block with a mix of comedy and violence to give us a really intense next phase to see how far she can truly climb.
I love those big three. I love the picks. I'm going to follow you and say in the obvious. First pick is Utami Hayashishita. My second pick becomes Konami. And my third, after last night's altercations, is Mei Sierra. I want to say that because of how Konami has performed in 5-stars in previous years, and after her Wonder of Stardom championship, she's probably just as hungry to get the red. But is she going to be hungrier than someone like Mei Sierra, who probably wants to pry the belt out of her former Crazy Star tag partner's hands? Only have to wait and see. So remember who we've said so far. Jason, who have you said for Red Stars A?
Okay, let's see what I got for Red Stars A. My Red Stars A3 are going to be Azumi, Natsuko Tora and Rina.
Okay, 1 sec. And then for B, let's all keep these in mind, guys.
Yeah, so for Red Stars B, I've got Saya Ida, Rina Yamashita, and Utami Hayashishita.
And I noticed you guys are also typing out your own, so I'll give you about an extra 10 seconds. Red Stars A, Rina, Azumi, Micah. Okay. So I noticed you guys are commenting. I'm going to be acknowledging your comments once we get towards close to the tail end. But since we've talked about the star, now let's go into the next block and talk about the crazy. Talking about Blue Stars A, the World of Stardom champion, Suzu Suzuki.
Absolutely. Yeah. And congrats to Suzu Suzuki, her 5th attempt at claiming the red belt. And apparently the 5th time is the charm. However, just looking at this block, I sometimes have to wonder, I won't harp on this too much, but if we look at Blue Stars A and we look at Red Stars A where Kurata was positioned, I almost can't help but wonder if Stardom's initial plans of who was going to be red belt champion going into this tournament changed at some later points in time. Because when I look at this block, I don't necessarily think it screams red belt title challenger. Whereas Red Stars A, which we talked about that Kurata is in, has a lot of the names of people that were already being thrown into the ring in terms of who could be challenging Kurata for the red belt. So that's neither here nor there. Suzu Suzuki is one of the strongest competitors in her block. A lot of people that we wouldn't really expect to have a leg up on her, though there are a couple people who might surprisingly be able to step forward and announce that they want to challenge her for the World of Stardom title. This is really where the tournament, but also Stardom's booking becomes a bit surrounded by various question marks. We don't know how long they're intending for Suzu Suzuki to hold the belt. We don't know how far she will get in this tournament. But in terms of the field that she has to traverse, I think she's got some fairly good odds at carving her way through these other wrestlers.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the hammer. When I look at this block, I don't really see like, oh, this person might challenge for the red belt. So I do think that as well. Like now looking at blocks, could like the blocks have been decided on who was red belt champion? That might play a huge factor. But Suzu Suzuki is, I guess, the perfect definition of persistence because fifth time being the charm is just incredible. Also, she is the youngest 5-star GP winner. If I'm looking at this correctly, I believe she is the only GP winner in this block. Yes, she is. But Suzu Suzuki, this is a mixture of upset victories, shocking victories, and maybe a clean sweep for Suzu. So maybe the Blue Stars A block is unpredictable. Or maybe we're just downplaying it. But I do think that Suzu is going to have some shocking realizations throughout the blocks. Because as we look at someone like, let's say, Aya Sakura or Hanako, maybe Suzu might take that lightly and maybe that causes an upset victory.
Yeah, you never want to fully push in your chips or make a prediction that is so strong that you really don't entertain alternatives. Suzu might be in for a rude awakening against a couple of these people, but she's looking like one of the favorites in Blue Stars A, just based on resume and recent performances. But again, with just the way that Stardom's booking has gone so against the grain, The fact that she did have to challenge 5 times, and it wasn't defeating Julia, it wasn't defeating Micah when the title was vacated, it wasn't defeating Tam Nakano, it wasn't defeating Saya Kamitani, it was defeating Sayaka Kurata, of all people. I
Did
don't
she
know.
challenge when Shuri was champion or no?
No, she did not.
That was Risa Sarah.
She was a little too fixated on Julia at the time and getting revenge. Yeah, she allowed her prominence teammate Risa Sarah to take a stab at that. But just another thing that is a lingering question in my mind. Is that really what Stardom wanted Suzu's big breakthrough to be after all these years? You just have to ask the question.
I was kind of set on her winning it from like maybe Micah. Like somewhere down the line, maybe she would beat Micah. That was my prediction. If you had to give me a timeline of Micah's World of Stardom title reign and who would be her ender, I personally thought it would be Suzu. But that's neither here nor there. That's a whole different kind of conversations for a different spot. But we've been on the crazy chant for quite some time. Now let's talk about the new Cosmic Angels leader. Wow, that's crazy to say. Aya Sakura, the high kick angel. Big shoes for Aya. And I know some of you guys are thinking, wasn't she in the GP previously? Yes, she was. But Aya Sakura has to walk into the GP as a faction leader. And I think in Stardom, you must be a fighting champion and a dominant leader. Lead by example is the saying. And Aya Sakura, who is, I think, what's it been, only 2 weeks? Has it only been 2 weeks since she's been Cosmic Angels leader, or has it just been 1?
Not entirely sure.
Like something like it's been about 1 or 2 weeks. And I think if I'm Aya Sakura, the first thing I'm going to want to do is show I can be a winner. I can lead by example. If I can win, Natsupoi can win. If I can win, then Ano can win. If I can win, then Ann can win, so on and so forth. And you want to get as many wins as you can in this 5-star GP. So again, big shoes for our new Cosmic Angels leader in Aya Sakura.
Yeah, the captain has been announced. She's also one of the ringleaders of the Cosmic Carnival, so we don't want to forget that detail.
I love that name.
Yeah, it's got a ring to it, no doubt. And I really, again, I mentioned this with Kurata as well. The fact that she has been given this title and she is a captain of one of the fan favorite factions in the entire promotion is not something to take lightly. We don't want to look at Aya Sakura through new blood colored glasses. I think she's absolutely going to honestly be like hell on wheels in this block. And I'm expecting her to rack up some major points to get some of the biggest wins of her career, possibly. And I think this might be one of the more interesting blocks because it's a bit more open. It's not so top heavy like Red Stars A or like the final block that we're going to be talking about. And she's one of the people that could mix in some comedy. I think she's kind of been undeniable right now as a wrestler in Stardom, where even if you weren't paying a lot of attention to her in the early days, which I think you really should have. I've been a fan of hers pretty much since the beginning. You now have really no excuse. She's one of the best on the mic. She's one of the most supported when it comes to the live audiences. And now, as the person calling the shots for Cosmic Angels, they're back to their dances before the matches. They're back to their call outs, the roster call outs at the end of the show. They're starting to show signs of the Cosmic Angels of old. I really think all of that stuff lends itself to a noteworthy Aya Sakura performance in this tournament. So definitely don't count her out at any point.
Ooh, I like that question from Blood Money. Could Aya Sakura pin Suzu Suzuki and wants to avenge her tag team partner Sakura for the red belt loss? Interesting. I'm going to say that is a possibility. But I also think that a win over Suzu by Aya can overflate Aya's ego. As the captain and as doing what Carrera couldn't, I could see that taking up a form in its own. But if you want, we can talk about that later. Because next we have to talk about I guess Stardom's giant, Hanako. Former future of Stardom champion, just challenged for the goddess with Micah. And factionless.
Yes, still no faction. EXV disbanding towards the beginning of February, and not a lot of movement since. Not a lot of signs of where all that will go, but maybe some of the other faction intrigue needs to get resolved first. It's really hard to say.
Hanako is a interesting case in this block because there's a lot that can happen here, but the biggest thing happening is hands down a victory over Suzu. Honestly, I think Hanako needs to win. Not in a sense of like, if I win, I get this, but Hanako needs to win so she can show that she has arrived. As I don't think her future of Stardom championship reign really did a good job of showing us who Hanako is. I think I've gotten a better understanding as Micah's tag partner than who I've seen Hanako the individual.
And definitely shout out to Bloody Money 47 for that comment that you mentioned about Aya Sakura trying to get revenge on Suzu. But let's not forget that Hanako has been mixing it up with Suzu left and right this year. The entire strange kind of winding path of EXV versus Mi Vida Loca has involved Hanako getting her face dragged through the mud. Most recently,
bloodied.
Right, exactly. Most recently at All-Star Grand Queendom with the hardcore match where Hanako ended up taking the loss. So I like what you had to say about her possibly upsetting the red belt champion. We've seen Hanako challenge for the white belt, get a lot of crowd support in that match. And regardless of what an individual fan might think of Hanako, there's really no denying that Stardom has pushed Hanako and believed in Hanako pretty much for the longest time. They've sent her overseas on multiple different occasions with the rest of the Stardom roster or not. And they will continue, I believe, to put her in these various title pictures and allow her to try and kind of power up and leverage that large size advantage that she will have against Suzu Suzuki and try and earn the biggest match of her career to this point.
Well said. Honestly, anything is possible. Like the comments are saying, anything is definitely going to be possible when it comes to Hanako. As for what that is, don't know yet. But again, it's a wait and see kind of game. Speaking of waiting and seeing, I'm curious to see how many beers will Stone Cold Rianne have before she stomps the mud hole and the entire block's ass. Oh my god, she is going to be such a spoiler. I think Rihanna is slept on. I think she might be the most taken lightly competitor in all of the GP this year. But when she rolls you up, don't be surprised. When she finally hits that stunner, don't be surprised.
Yes, never turn your back on the rattlesnake. Stone Cold Rion is going to stomp all kinds of mud holes in this block. And I agree with you. She is absolutely the spoiler in this particular block. She's going to be facing Hanako on August 14th, real close to the end of block competition. She's going to be facing Aya Sakura on the 15th, just before we get the final tally for each wrestler's overall score. So if either of those wrestlers are on a tear, she might be able to stop that dead in its tracks with the venomous tools in her tool shed. So Rion, of course, is going to be a fan favorite. And she's going to be an underdog in a lot of these fights. Last year, she scored absolutely 0 points. But this year, I think the tides might be turning. I think the rattlesnake will have just enough venom to get through and really give somebody a bad day.
I know she's for sure going to be able to play spoiler on a couple people here. But well, actually, damn it, there's no easy segue to this because she's not a spoiler. I think all right, next person to talk about is Hina, well, we haven't talked about Hanan yet. So the second out of the three sisters. Ooh, Powerhouse Hina, that's what I call her.
Nice.
So now we're gonna be talking about Powerhouse Hina. And all I could say is I am so happy with who Hina has become post Queen's Quest. Confidence, a suitable style, a champion. Hina has just been firing on all cylinders since, I guess, again, post Queen's Quest. What can I say about this year? An artist champ, great matches. I think the other thing that's missing for me personally is if you give me Hina in a UWF match.
Oh, dang. There's an idea. Not too bad. But I like your nickname, Powerhouse Hina. That definitely has a ring to it. And I'm glad you're mentioning the sisters of Hina. When we talk about these tournaments, not only the 5-star, but the Cinderella, what have we seen? We've seen Hanan reach the semifinals of the 2024 5-star. We've seen Rena reach the semifinals of the 2025 5-star. And obviously we have seen both Hanan and Rena in the finals of the Cinderella tournament. So although Hina has been developing and evolving in leaps and bounds, we've seen her match quality increase at such a high level, her mic performance increase at such a high level. The only needle left to really thread is that tournament success, putting that on her resume. So the big question for her is whether or not 2026 is the year that happens. So that is what I find super, super intriguing about her. And I may have more to say about her as we go.
Looking forward to it. So next we have to talk about, you guys call her Kevin. We used to meme about the 1,000-yard stare. Honestly, kids love her. I'm still pitching for the Miyu versus Kamitani match. It's leader of the Bang Bang Gang of Eyes, machine gun, pistol, whatever gun you guys could think of. Miyu's got it on her. It's Miyu Amasaki, the other half of the Goddess of Stardom Tag Team Champions. Also, that's crazy to say. God, I love that Miyu the champion. How many DDTs does it take to win a 5-star? That's the $1 million question. It's no longer how many licks does it take to get to a center of attention. It's how many DDTs does it take to win a 5-star. Miyu Amasaki here isn't a spoiler. If anything, it kind of goes back to whether I talked about this for like Cinderella or I've talked about this with friends, is in this block with these competitors, it drills into my head the possibility of Miyu Amasaki being a tournament finalist or a tournament winner, because I believe that she would come close to the Cinderella finals. And I like that you were able to break apart all of the sisters' success between Hina, Rena, and Hanan, because everything that Hina hasn't done in comparison to her sisters, Miyu's kind of done in comparison to like other members of Queen's Quest. Whether it be a single champion, she did it before Hina winning the Futures, Goddess, artist, going far in a tournament. So I could see Miyu just taking one step closer on top of the rungs of the Stardom hierarchy, and who knows, maybe being one step closer to being main event Miyu.
All right, the nicknames are in full force. That is awesome. Yeah, with Miyu, I think her performance in this year's Cinderella may have seen her go farther than some people might have expected. And I really can't say enough good things about the Goddess of Stardom title reign and her role there. She got the big win over Natsuko Tora that earned O2 Line the belts. And then she, of course, kind of went to the depths of hell with Hanako at Korakuen Hall to finish up that match. Had to make an avalanche fall from the top of the mountain to end that fight. And we kind of might make the mistake of looking at Miyu still as an underdog. But honestly, most of these people she's facing, she's either on their level or at risk of surpassing them. Obviously, an underdog against Suzu Suzuki. You could probably argue she's an underdog against B. Priestley. Everybody else, they're either peers or she's starting to gain ground and gain an advantage. So she could be very scary, especially if she decides to load an extra magazine full of DDTs.
See, now I need like a DDT count for every match. Like, we've all seen super kick parties. I want to see a DDT party. But that's Miyu. Now let's talk about Ruaka. And all I can say is, I want to know, how much can Ruaka get away with before the ref finally calls the match? That's all I want to know. Arguably a bigger cheater than Natsuko Tora. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe so. But cheating or not, win, lose, or draw, you have to admit, Ruaka just seems to be having so much fun out there in the ring. And at some point, you kind of just got to give in and just enjoy the ride, because she just seems to be having the time of her life.
Oh, absolutely.
Not really, caring as much as some of the other competitors. But I just will go back to that claim about the hate faction. And they have just been absolutely devastating in tournament competition. You'd be hard pressed not to see multiple hate wrestlers sometimes make it through to like the quarterfinals or the semifinals. So every time Ruaka shows up, as strange as it might seem, she could have a chance of really startling the viewers. She actually got pretty far in the 2024 Cinderella. I think she made the semifinals there. And then I want to say maybe last year's Cinderella. No, she didn't do too good there. There might be one other tournament where I felt she kind of overperformed. Obviously made the finals of last year's tag league as well.
Yeah, I was saying, she really shows in Goddess tag leagues. Very underrated in my eyes as a tag team competitor.
It's possible that like the real X factor in all of her matches is just who's being assigned as the referee and how aware and perceptive are they of what's going on. I think that might be the real difference maker.
That's actually perfectly said. It's all about who's the ref, how attentive they are, how lenient, how easygoing are they, and exactly how sneaky can Ruaka be. But we're not done talking about hate, because next is the top Gaijin. I have no idea what the hell her new nickname is, or if she even has one. But everyone's favorite, B. Priestley. Wait, B's never won a 5-star, I believe. She's won the World of Stardom Championship, but she's never won a 5-star. Honestly, I think B is slept on. Not in terms of in-ring, I think as a threat. If I call Konami the underground villain, I think B. Priestley is the forgotten threat of hate. And you only get to remember that once you get in the ring with her. And there we go. Blood Money. She believes everyone's Chopin. But yeah, I think B is the forgotten villain or the forgotten threat. But she is a former World of Stardom champion, Goddess, SWA. I wonder what happened to that belt. Artist. Yeah, she's not that far from Grand Slam, but B. Priestley, I guess, picks and chooses when she wants to climb to the top. And I'm curious, this 5-star, are we going to see her want to be red belt champion again. Because she kind of has an easy layup right here. Like, just beat Suzu and call dibs right after.
And at the same time, that would echo what happened last year in the 2025 5-star, where B. Priestley scored a victory against Saya Kamitani in the tournament, and then went on to challenge Saya at the event, which was called To the World, I believe. So that is one of those head scratchers. You kind of wonder, is Stardom going to repeat the same type of plot line 2 years in a row? They absolutely could, but they might want to divert from that. With a lot of this tournament, aside just going off of instinct, I'm really trying to dial in and look at the matches that are taking place on August 16th, which I mentioned is the last day of block competition. And for B. Priestley, she's actually going to be facing Suzu Suzuki on August 16th. So the very last attempt for either of them to score points at the end of the line before the wrestlers are announced for escaping the blocks. So I see this going two possible ways. We're either going to see B. Priestley leading up to August 16th being completely vile and nasty and having a stranglehold on this block, and Suzu Suzuki needing to overcome a very ferocious B. Priestley in order to get through. Or we're going to see B. Priestley in a very sneaky, surreptitious role on August 16th, where Suzu Suzuki looks like she's got everything kind of handled, everything in the bag, and all it's going to take is a little bit of cheating, a little bit of hate antics to upset Suzu Suzuki's plans and maybe stop her cold right there on that last day. So I could see either of those outcomes happening, but we're going to have to just wait and watch to see how it ends up going.
And with that, we have discussed Blue Stars A block. So, Jason, we have to pick the three. I believe you went first for Red Stars B.
Yes, I think I may have gone first for both of the previous blocks, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, then I'll go first for Blue. So, my big three, it's not mandatory, but I feel like it's only fair that we get the World of Stardom champion into the big three. So I'm gonna go with Suzu Suzuki, and the wrestler with the most to prove, Aya Sakura, and this is where it gets really hard. I am going to say, as a dark horse that no one thought about, Hina.
All right. Well, I'm glad you went first, because this may be a Talk for Glory debut. This may be the first time this has ever happened in our three 5-star previews. My picks for this block, Blue Stars A, are a perfect match of your picks. I also have the World of Stardom champion Suzu Suzuki getting through. I think she's going to be booked fairly strongly now that she has the belts in her grasp. And I think you got to get the Cosmic Captain, the ringleader of Cosmic Carnival, to get through, as I said. But also, I'm looking at Hina to try and match some of the accomplishments of her sisters and really have her moment in the sun, not to use a Hanan pun there, but really have her moment to go far in one of these tournaments. So to do that, she's going to have to escape this block, which I think she can do.
Oh, that's perfect. That is a perfect match then. Then we're 3 for 3 on this one. Looking forward to when we got to talk about finals. But now let's talk about, honestly, the block I've been looking forward to the most. This is arguably the hungriest block ever. Or I guess here. It is the Black Peach Momo Kogo, not defending, reigning, defending, not undisputed, goddamn it, Paul Heyman. Wonder of Stardom champion, Hanan, High Speed champion, Yunami Zamori, one half of FWC and Koguma, got chosen bigger than Ami Sore, the Phoenix Queen, Saya Kamitani, leader of Neo Genesis, Starlight Kid, and I'm now going to say Kikyo Furusawa.
That's my guess as well. And If anyone in the comments can help clarify, because I'm in the same boat as you. I saw the matches and saw who qualified, but I have yet to get confirmation on which block specifically the qualifying wrestlers are going to. But looking at who is populating the blocks, I'm kind of agreeing with you that this would be Kikyo's block most likely.
Yeah, that's my guess right now too. Like my money's on it, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. What a odd year it's been for the Black Peach and Momo Watanabe.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's really confusing. But I do want to like go off of like last year's predictions, where you talked about how last year's tournament was something had to give, where it was make or break for Momo Watanabe, and honestly, ever since then, literally since the win of the 5-star, I think that Momo Watanabe has been on fight or flight mode. Not in a sense of my time is running out, as she's only, I believe, like 27 or 20, like 26 or 27, but in the sense of, and I think a lot of Momo Watanabe fans feel the same way, my time needs to come now. And I think last year to now, Momo's kind of been firing on all cylinders to remind everyone that she was a top name back in the day. She was so many champions and a dominant faction leader, and now a GP winner, where all we're really waiting for is when is Momo winning the red belt, and who knows, maybe we can get back on that question through the GP.
Going into this block, as you kind of implied, there are just so many things to consider and so many things to try and piece together. There are a lot of puzzle pieces just scattered across the floor right now. When it comes to Momo Watanabe, there's a couple of things I want to say, and I'm not going to completely finish my thought because we need to talk about some of the other wrestlers in the block as well. But it is really curious how the structure of this story has unfolded. We had Utami Hayashishita making the surprise return, and really the laser beam was focused on Utami Hayashishita and Saya Kamitani. Since that point, Momo Watanabe has entered the picture. She has entered this story, and now she has positioned herself across from Saya Kamitani more directly, and most of the conversation is centering around those two wrestlers. So that's one piece of the puzzle. I'm gonna set that on the back burner for now. You mentioned the red belt and how there are only a couple feathers left in the cap for Momo Watanabe to obtain and acquire. And if we picture our World of Stardom champion Suzu Suzuki and who would make for a fitting, we might say, follow-up, a fitting contender who can actually dethrone Suzu Suzuki, I do recall that Momo Watanabe had a really impressive match against Suzu last year in the 5-star, at least in my opinion. And she's one of the people that I think would be an extremely fitting red belt champion to dethrone the leader of Mi Vida Loca. So those are some things I have kind of sort of resonating in my thought process. Momo Watanabe, you can kind of guarantee, is going to have high quality matches. Her run last year was full of memorable matches and kind of these like gritty, almost grudges that were going on between her and Sari. I mentioned the Suzu Suzuki match, of course, the finals match against Azumi. So she kind of like in a sneaky way has a lot of story that can unfold on top of the fact that she can put on a hell of a show at any given point in this tournament.
Honestly, when it comes to Momo Watanabe, we don't know what level of a competitor we're ever going to get out of her. We just know that it's damn near going to be the best, especially with all these outliers from performance from last year to focuses on Utami Hayashishita turning to Saya Kamitani. I'd even like to say that I think Momo sees the writing on the wall that someone like Saya Kamitani might lose focus in her place in Stardom if she's too gun-holed on Utami. That's why Momo is standing in her path, basically forcing her to remind her, you were just on top of the world not even a year ago.
I think a lot of fans also have lingering in their minds the question of what would have been. We know that Momo Watanabe won the 5-star, challenged Saya Kamitani last November, but right after that match took a long-term hiatus due to what seemed to have been an ongoing and pre-existing knee injury. So had that knee injury not been so debilitating, had it not been such a factor, people can't help but ask the question of, would we right now be witnessing and experiencing the reign of a red belt champion, Momo Watanabe? So now that she's back, seems to be in full force, those questions start to resurface, and you have to just ask, what does Stardom have in mind and where do they want to go from here?
That actually is a good question, because I guess we technically got I'm going to say 70% Momo versus 100% Kamitani. So maybe this year's What If can be what's soon to come. And they're in the same block, so we might get a different result from last year. But there's a lot of as well I want to talk about Momo, but we've got to keep this thing moving. So next, we're going to talk about the Wonder of Stardom champion. Honestly, the definition of a babyface, Hanan. Honestly, I don't know how much good stuff I can say about Hanan, other than she's doing an excellent job rebuilding stars. She's won the Wonder of Stardom championship. I believe in one of our past videos where I was over on Red Belt Radio, I had spoken about how I believe Hanan will be able to use the white belt to shine light on Stars to remind everyone that Stars is going to be okay. A lot of changes have happened over the last 2 years. Departures, kickouts, betrayals. But Stars is still going to be okay. And I think as leader, like I talked about for Aya, I think that same pressure still lies on Hanan's shoulders as well. As a champion, as a leader, as the oldest of 3 sisters, the pressure's on Hanan.
Many different vantage points to view Hanan from in this tournament. I'm going to pick one specific vantage point and kind of hang my hat there as being one of sort of the pivotal pieces of this puzzle that is this block and is this tournament. And we talk, of course, about Momo Watanabe's connection to Saya Kamitani. We can't help but think about across the tournament bracket, Utami Hayashishita's connection to Saya Kamitani. But I actually want to spend a good deal of time talking about Hanan's connection to Saya Kamitani. Going back 2 years, the 2024 5-star Grand Prix, where Hanan was able to defeat Saya in block competition and then revisit and sort of meet Saya Kamitani again in the semifinals of the 2024 5-star, where Saya Kamitani got the better of Hanan. And that started a trend that we have not seen deviate since. They met yet again in last year's 5-star Grand Prix in block competition, and Saya Kamitani defeated Hanan. And we have to mention the fact that on September 26th, I believe it was, of last year, the person that Saya Kamitani chose as her opponent for the milestone televised match that Saya Kamitani performed in, not for the red belt title, but merely to be placed upon a grand stage in front of a mainstream audience and breaking a 23-year drought of live televised women's wrestling in Japan. That opponent was Hanan, and Saya Kamitani yet again got the better of Hanan. And we are seeing for the third 5-star in a row, Hanan in a block with Saya Kamitani. Now that's all well and good, but the reason that it's even more intriguing to me is I keep sounding like a broken record. You're going to have to forgive me, but I continue to look at the matches that are taking place on August 16th, the very last day of block competition, the last opportunity for anyone to score any points. And Hanan will be facing Saya Kamitani on August 16th. So the direction this has all been going for these last 3 years will either fully cement Kamitani's sort of domination of the white belt champion, or we will see a change in fortune. And if we do see a change in fortune, there could be some pretty, how should I say, some pretty significant ramifications. So I'm going to leave that there, but I just want people to take note of what I have said so that when we continue the conversation of the wrestlers in this block, you are not as dumbfounded by what I'm going to predict.
I'm glad that you point out a lot of comparisons between Kamitani and Hanan, as I personally like to say that Hanan and Kamitani is the perfect balance of good versus evil, yin versus yang. I mean, yin and yang in Stardom. A lot of similarities. They were both faction leaders. Kamitani, former leader of Queen's Quest after Utami had left. Hanan became leader of Stars after Mayu Utami had left. But different routes and different ways to go about, but they somehow keep meeting in the 5-star. So maybe this leads to something else. A lot of roads do lead to Kamitani, and I think that's something that we've been noticing as we've been talking.
Yeah,
luckily
the
next person doesn't have any roads leading to Kamitani, unless Kamitani wants to challenge for high speed. That's the tropical Yahoo, Yuna Mizumori. Honestly, all I can say is I think Yuna's here to look for like high speed scouts. I don't think Yuna Mizumori has found a competitor that has given her the fight same way Mei Sierra has. And I think hopefully she can find that here in the GP.
That would be kind of cool to see, because this block is no stranger to high-speed competition. We, of course, have the high-speed genius Koguma here. We have a former high-speed champion Starlight Kid, and kind of shockingly, some people may not remember this, but former high-speed champion Saya Kamitani as well. So Yuna Mizumori occupying one of the more comedic roles you might think, but I really want to see how she is going to be able to deliver when she's got to take on former red belt champion Saya Kamitani, former white belt champion Starlight Kid, and current white belt champion Hanan. These are going to be some serious tests for Yuna Mizumori, and I hope that she's able to pass these tests as she's been able to pass the tests of the past. Not a lot of people would have expected her to inherit the high-speed throne against Mei Sierra when we kind of flash back to Mei Sierra's early days as champion. But I feel like she's absolutely earned that title, and the story that they told along the way has been tremendous. And I hope she's able to tell some good stories here in Blue Stars B as well, because it's easy to overlook a wrestler like her when there's so many other things going on.
Oh yeah, definitely. She is so overlooked, but hopefully that changes. And I do like that you point out that Yuna is kind of like on the comedic side, but this is going to force her to get serious. Now, as for comedic to serious, I don't know how serious this wrestler is going to get, because the next wrestler we're going to have to talk about is the high-speed genius Koguma. And I don't know if she's been serious, like, since getting kicked out of Stars with Hazuki. Like, she's very happy-go-lucky throughout, like, her time in Stardom, or whether she's touring, like, Mexico. I don't think Koguma has, like, that serious bone in her body. It's like she's missing something. Like, she's missing direction. She's missing purpose. It's almost like when I see Koguma, it's like she's telling me, why should I try? Like, let's all just have fun. And hopefully this changes.
I can see that changing, because I do have Koguma as my pick for spoiler in this block. She's going to be facing Starlight Kid on August 14th. She's going to be facing Momo Watanabe on August 15th. So some of her toughest opposition is taking place at the tail end of the block standings, and it will give her an opportunity maybe to bust out the Kuma roll at just the opportune time, at just that split second, to ruin some of the days of her opponents. And we know that she can flip that switch or turn the dial. We've seen her get real serious when she faced Hazuki. I think that was actually for the CMLL women's title.
Yes,
and
it was.
The FWC versus O2 line match as well. You get glimpses of Koguma really gunning for her opponents, and the skill set is there. So just be ready for her to have a couple of matches that truly do stand out and have some replay value, I think.
Oh, I like that. Now, speaking of standing out, and I talk about this person a lot and how they're missing that one key factor to stand out. Next is Ami Sourei, the final champion of the Artist of Stardom champions. We've talked about Hina, we've talked about Lady. Now let's talk about Ami, the third of Dream Shrine. Ami is so talented that it kind of gets forgotten only due to the fact that she shines in big cards where other things are happening around her. But I think the 5-star is the environment where we kind of have to remember that, oh yeah, Ami is arguably maybe like 1-2 good showcases from being a huge marquee name in Stardom. And I think in this block, getting wins over I'm going to assume her forever rival Hanan, or one of Stardom's top names in Momo Watanabe, is really going to show us that Ami might win the white belt or the red belt a lot sooner than we think. And we're going to be reminded as to why she is basically God's Eye second in command.
I think the two matches that you just selected are really pivotal matches to look at. Momo Watanabe actually eliminated Ami Sourei from last year's 5-star. And so that was just prior to the quarterfinals. And the biggest story match for Ami Sourei, aside from obviously getting revenge on Momo there, has got to be against Hanan, someone who has been
for sure
almost like a career-spanning rival at this stage, with the Future of Stardom title change going from Hanan to Ami Sourei, and definitely the 2024 Cinderella final taking place between Hanan and Ami Sourei. She's ultimately destined to be another white belt challenger for Hanan alongside with Mei Seira. And one of the things that I think maybe hasn't been noticed so much is that Ami Sourei, throughout house shows and various sort of like tag matches, like she's quietly been racking up a ton of wins. And I can't really personally think of the last time I saw her directly take a loss. So I think it's very unlikely for her not to score an impressive number of points and be very threatening, certainly at the first half of this this block competition. And we'll just have to wait and see how far she can kind of press beyond that. But I think she's going to be one of those people that are going to intimidate a lot of the opponents as we see how Blue Stars B shakes out. And then another thing to like factor in is just the concept of Shuri not being around. This is the second year in a row, I think, that Shuri has not been able to compete in the 5-star.
So yeah, you're right.
She's allowing the other members of God's Eye to have a chance to step up and to be noticed, and maybe to get to that next phase of their career so they can get up to a higher level while she's, touring across the world and fighting the good fight.
That's actually a really cool thing to point out. As with no Shuri in the GP, all of God's Eye have to step up their game even harder. Because with no leader, it's up to, Hina, Lady, and Ami, and Tomoka to show that, hey, God's Eye, technically, we all run this. Like, we're all champions. But yeah, that was that's now let's talk about someone that's basically gonna shake up the whole tournament because this person's wins and losses kind of dictate my predictions. The former World of Stardom champion, the Phoenix Queen, Saya Kamitani. Okay, so I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off first. Saya's gonna be in my top 3. Okay, that part's off. But I think that Saya Kamitani is in the same position Momo Watanabe was from last year. I think if Saya does not perform in this GP to outstanding remarks, to semifinals, to playoffs, to semifinals, to finals, maybe even winner, then that might be it. I think Saya Kamitani needs this, probably needs this more than anyone. Because since losing to Carrara, everyone's been questioning the Phoenix Queen. And I think this is how the Phoenix Queen kind of regains that power through a dominant GP.
I mentioned early on as we were covering this that I think there's an obvious 5-star final that kind of is just waiting under the surface that a lot of people have on their minds. And I mentioned that Utami Hayashishita is one half of that obvious final. So I have to say that naturally, Saya Kamitani is the other half of that obvious final. She is one of the strongest contenders for winning the 5-star this year. There are going to be truly all eyes on Saya Kamitani. First of all, being one of the biggest superstars that we've ever seen in the history of Stardom as a promotion, losing her belt at the biggest show that Stardom has ever put on. And now she's been thrown into this tailspin, having to deal with the return of Utami Hayashishita. And just as she was trying to navigate that, Momo Watanabe entered the scene, and the two of them are having this direct strife back and forth. But truly, so many people are gunning for Saya Kamitani. Starlight Kid, in some ways, is gunning for Saya Kamitani. Ami Sourei, back when she returned at the conversion last year, had some choice words for Saya Kamitani, and that was her first match back. It was Ami Sourei and God's Eye trying to take on Hate. So there's a lot of personal animosity and vitriol directed towards the Phoenix Queen, who's having a bit of a character crisis right now. She has been absolutely kind of showcasing her likable side towards the fans. If you see these shows, she's providing more fan service. She's acting almost in the idol style that Saya Kamitani as a young person was trying to grow up to be before she got into pro wrestling. And those kind of betray what the Phoenix Queen was when she first formed, and certainly as she was at the top of this company. So there are a lot of mixed messages. There's a lot of contrast happening. There's a lot of strife happening. And that's what makes this block so very intriguing, on top of all the other reasons, the talent that is stacked here, the history that is stacked here. And so one possible route that the 5-star could take involves Saya Kamitani, who has experienced a tremendous loss, the loss of the red belt. She's experienced this tremendous crisis of identity in trying to deal with Utami Hayashishita. Is Utami her enemy, or is there still this lingering, strong well of emotion and connection to Utami? And the same question can be asked about Momo Watanabe. Are they friends? Are they allies within Hate? Or is the rift going to be too large to mend? So there's an obvious story to be told where Saya Kamitani just completely navigates this 5-star, having some of the best matches we see in 2026 and fulfilling that Queen's Quest lore that I keep coming back to, and facing Utami Hayashishita in the finals. And that is potentially a tremendous story to tell, and a tremendous result that can help get Saya back to the top of this company eventually. But we've seen Taro Okada for a good while now. And sometimes he'll take you down that obvious story path, but a lot of times he will take you down a very different path. So depending who you ask, we might be seeing the beginning of a sort of a somewhat expected story that's going to be very beautiful to watch unfold, or there may be something else in store for us. I'm going to leave it there. We could honestly talk about Saya and her role in this tournament and in this company for a real long time.
Oh yeah.
Let me actually just say one other thing I wanted to bring up, which is Saya dropped the red belt at the end of April, and the red belt picture has been somewhat difficult to pinpoint. So a natural question that has been asked is, why did the Phoenix Queen lose the belt at that point in time in that fashion and to that opponent? And there are a couple of possible theories and reasons why. One of them could be because the prospect of needing to fight in the 5-star all the way through to the finals in these absolutely hellish matches, and to put on a 5-star final that is going to be truly one to remember if she does face Utami, is really tough to do when you're also on TV and you're also the red belt champion and you have all these demands placed upon you. So the red belt title loss, you could argue, might be a layup for Saya to navigate this 5-star Grand Prix win. That is one theory. I think there are other possible theories out there, but it is certainly something to ponder and question to some degree. So I think that's a good place to set things for now before we talk about the other wrestlers and then what we think is going to happen in the block.
Before I move on, I also want to throw out my theory as to like why did Saya Kamatani lose the War Stardom Championship. Personally, I've always said that the outcome of that match came down to two things. That was one, Kurora's resolve, and two, Kamatani's mental state. As 24 hours before All-Star Grand Queendom, we did hear that Utami would be leaving Marigold. And I could see, I can't talk about finals yet, but I could see somewhere down the line, Utami versus Saya being the physical manifestation of what was in Kamatani's head that day. But that's going to be a different kind of conversation maybe down the line, because now we're going to talk about Kikyo Furusawa. In the most joking way possible, I just want to say that Kikyo's here to sell Eat to Respect Army shirts. Not win, not lose, but to make a lot of money. I don't know what to say other than she's going to make money.
Well, I will say that, I've been pleased with how Stardom has navigated the ongoing rivalry between Kikyo Furusawa and Ema Maishima, giving them each their moment to have a real breakthrough and have a real triumph. And that story is kind of not yet fully closed. The book has not fully been written because they continue to go back and forth. And when you think, at least this is my experience, I kind of thought Kikyo was going to be the one to win the Rookie of the Year tournament, and they turned left and they had Ema win.
Oh,
and
same.
You could kind of see Ema entering even this very block, facing her teammate Starlight Kid, facing the high-speed champion Yuna Mizumori, facing the high-speed genius Koguma. You could see that being a real natural fit for Ema Maishima. So you could argue that Kikyo winning here is equally surprising. And so I think they're setting a real good standard for the two of them and how you can't just take anything for granted whenever they face each other. Now, I'd like to, I wish I could also say that you can't take Kikyo Furusawa for granted in this block, but I don't think that's necessarily a true statement. And if she is in Blue Stars B, she's in way over her head. I think she's going to have a great turn as an underdog. Ultimately, she's going to get to reunite with Saya Kamitani, who took strange interest in her for a show or two while Saya Kamitani was champion. So it'll be fun to see them revisit that. But she's going to be hard-pressed to really gain any ground here. And I don't think she's going to be in the running whatsoever in terms of points.
Okay, so I leave this person last because of Jason's last video talking about who he thinks has been lined up for the 5-star Grand Prix finals and to be the winner. Now let's talk about Starlight Kid. Jason, floor's all yours.
All right. Well, in that case, I guess I'll have to start with a shameless plug. So, as Enigma V4 implied, I encourage you all to check out the String Six Splash YouTube channel here on YouTube. You can also just search for Red Belt Radio. And I did put together a video making the case for Starlight Kid as your next 5-star Grand Prix winner. Now, has my opinion changed since then, or has it stayed the same? I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But the Sky Tiger has done a lot in recent times. Not only has she traveled to America, not only has she traveled through the Forbidden Door and faced an old foe in Tekla, but she has started to gain a whole new sort of amalgamation of eyeballs that have drifted towards her. She's bringing more attention to Stardom. She is heavily favored, actually, apparently, by Tony Khan of AEW, who sees her as his favorite Stardom wrestler personally. And we've seen a lot of back and forth intermingling between Stardom and AEW. Rena was just there on multiple shows. Hazuki before her. I mentioned Starlight Kid. You're definitely wouldn't be surprised to see Shooty show up in AEW these days. So the amount of attention that is being drawn to the 5-star is quite high. And we have to credit Starlight Kid for drawing some of that attention. And now that she's here and now that she has that attention, the question really becomes, what can she do with it and how can she leverage it? I mentioned Taro Okada being crafty, being able to direct your attention and over to one side, almost like Ruaka does before she punches you in the jaw. And then he just hits you with a haymaker that you never saw coming. So I mentioned that obvious final. And I think if we're going to look at some lesser, I guess we should say less obvious finals, but finals that would also be extremely epic, extremely fitting, and extremely memorable, I think we might actually see Starlight Kid in one half of that equation. But to get there, she's going to have to overcome a lot of opposition and a lot of personal opposition. Hanan is actually something of a rival of Starlight Kid's, in addition to Momo Watanabe, in addition to Saya Kamitani. And she's even faced some of these other wrestlers in previous 5-stars. She faced Kokuma in the 2024 5-star, and she faced Ami Sourei at least in the 2022 5-star. So these will be some rematches that I think will have a lot of extra energy like infused to them. So I'm really excited to see that.
All right, guys, check out Jason's SOK 5-star video. I just want to add on to what you've been saying. When it comes to SOK, especially when it comes to this year, SOK in better words has not taken her foot off the gas pedal from performance in ring and Stardom to walking through the Forbidden Door. Great match with Thekla. Again, great Wonder of Stardom championship run last year. And if you just like look in this block, we have her facing her former Goddess of Stardom tag team partner Momo Watanabe, her newfound rival in Saya Kamitani, and I guess she even gets to test the new high speed or the new world of high speed in Yuna Mizumori. The idea of SOK going past all this is very high and very probable in my eyes. So with all that being said, we've got to pick 3. And since I picked first for Blue Stars A, I'll do the same for B. So my 3 that I'm picking are going to be Saya Kamitani, Momo Watanabe, and this one is really hard because it's either SOK or Hanan, but down to the wire, I'm going to say Starlight Kid.
And those are 3 powerhouses, absolutely eligible for crossing the threshold and advancing. So very strong picks. All right, everyone, buckle your seatbelts, strap yourselves in, because my picks are next. And the first wrestler I'm choosing to advance is the 2025 5-star Grand Prix winner, the Black Peach, Momo Watanabe. Once again, making a statement in this tournament, moving through the blocks, whether she's got to use a baseball bat or not, she's going to find a way to get through. For my next pick, making it out of this block. I mean, I already made a video about her, so I guess I got to go with the Sky Tiger dancing in the night sky and dancing her way to the single elimination stage. Starlight Kid also advancing from this block. And now here's where things get intriguing, because I talked about that August 16th match, the match that I think stands a chance of being like the most pivotal centerpiece match of this tournament, one of the most memorable matches that we might see. And that match is going to involve the Phoenix Queen, Saya Kamitani, and the Wonder of Stardom champion, Hanan. Told you the history. Saya Kamitani, time and time again, has been able to put Hanan away, to show her up, and to exact her will over this baby face. And as we get to August 16th, with all eyes wondering what will unfold in the Queen's Quest lore, what will go down within the hate faction, I think we're going to be staring at those possibilities, and Taro Okada is going to pull out of his back pocket the 17 shock, and Hanan is going to defeat Saya Kamitani and keep her from advancing out of the block stage, making this tournament absolutely set ablaze and on fire with reactions and uncertainty from there. And I think Hanan is going to sneak by and make it through, leaving the Phoenix Queen in her dust. So I have Momo Watanabe, Starlight Kid, and in the biggest shock of the entire tournament, Hanan.
Damn, that actually did catch me. Sorry, I was expecting Kamitani to advance. Okay, so now with all that being said, guys, we have set our three for every single block. So we're going to talk about the playoffs, and then we'll hold off on the semifinals into finals. So I'll go first. I had talked about, for Red Stars A, my three being Azumi, Tomoka, and Kurara, and completely unbiased, I have Azumi making out of Red Stars A, and in Red Stars B, out of Utami, Konami, and Mei Sierra, I have Utami coming out. Now,
Nice.
as for Blue Stars A, between Aya, Suzu, and Hina, I am going to say Suzu makes it out. Now, for Blue Stars B, between Kamitani, Momo, and SOK, I think Kamitani makes it out. So that means my semifinals is, if I'm doing this right, a rematch of sorts. Azumi versus Saya Kamitani and Suzu Suzuki versus Utami Hayashishita.
Yeah.
So I'm going to press pause on that. How about you, Jason?
Well, there might be an echo in here, because my Red Stars A, even though we didn't have the same three going into it, my Red Stars A trifecta of Azumi, Natsuko Tora, and Rina, I do have making a repeat semifinals appearance, the high-speed bomb girl, Azumi, getting past those hateful opponents. For Red Stars B, my trifecta was Saya Ida, Rina Yamashita, and Utami Hayashishita. And we do need to fulfill some of the Queen's Quest lore. So I have Utami Hayashishita escaping. So on one side of the semifinals bracket, I have Azumi versus Utami Hayashishita.
Ooh.
Now for Blue Stars, this is where things will get even more surprising. For Blue Stars A, between Aya Sakura, Hina, and Suzu Suzuki, there is a bit of a destiny that needs to be fulfilled. The destiny of the three sisters, and only one sister remains who has yet to reach a tournament semifinal, and that is Hina.
Ooh.
And I have Hina making it into her first 5-star semifinal. I'm very high on Hina in this tournament. We'll see if that's for good or for bad, but I have high hopes for this wrestler. And then we've got Blue Stars B. And with my 17 shock, I have Hanan, Starlight Kid, and Momo Watanabe fighting it out. And there's really only one final that I want to see. Well, that's not true. There are many finals I want to see. But given the assortment of wrestlers that we have left in my bracket, there's one final I specifically want to see. And the only way I can get there is for the Sky Tiger to overcome both of her rivals, Momo Watanabe and Hanan, turning this tournament incredibly personal for her and making it to the semis. So on the blue side, I have Hina versus Starlight Kid. A lot of times with these GPs, you have one wild card there in the semis where you're like, I'm not even sure how this person got here, but it's kind of interesting now that they're here.
I was thinking when you said Hina.
And that's the role that Hina plays. So that's my semifinals. Red side, Azumi versus Utami Hayashishita, and blue side, Hina versus Starlight Kid.
All right. So now let's remember those 8 people we've just named. So now I'll ask the $1 million question. Jason, what is the match you're looking forward to the most?
Yeah, one hell of a question. And there's a lot of ways to go about answering this, right? There's skill for skill. There's the way the matchup looks on paper. There's the chemistry between the wrestlers. There's the possible entertainment value. And I think the one that has the most the strongest combination of all of those things for me is the Blue Stars B match between Momo Watanabe and Saya Kamitani. It's kind of the match that is being built up the most from a story perspective, and just the way the camera is shifting and focusing on these two wrestlers. They've come to blows on multiple occasions. They've gotten into arguments backstage. And it's one of those things where, as you mentioned, from Momo's match last year at Crimson Nightmare against Saya, it really feels like a continuation of wherever they envisioned going with Momo Watanabe, or maybe where they now envision seeing Saya Kamitani go. And so a lot of unanswered questions. I actually kind of don't believe they're going to answer all the questions with the match itself. I think it's going to be more of like the saga continues and there's going to be more for us to unpack later. But this is the one to me that they've really properly built up. And I can't remember the dates. It's like either August 2nd or August 3rd when they fight. Like there's almost no way that won't be a packed house ready to see that in the venue.
Damn, now, yeah, you sold me on that match. Now I want to see it. I'm actually looking forward to it. The match I'm looking forward to the most is we talked about it earlier, but I am looking forward to Konami versus Azusa Inaba, as that is a match where Azusa finally gets to fight someone that is similar in her skill set or even above it. And who knows? We've seen Azusa able to add things into her playbook, from a moonsault to the Kamigoye. I have yet to see her use the Michinoku driver, but wouldn't be surprised if after this match, somewhere down the line, Azusa would start using the Triangle Lancer. But yeah, that's the match I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, as we were talking about this tournament, I do feel like that's a sleeper match for sure. And it's one that has a lot of high upside. So I'm glad you picked that one.
So before we dive into the finals and we talk about the final four we've just spoken about, it's time for my favorite thing in tournaments. Let's do fantasy booking. So, as you guys already know, I swear I wish I could play Wheel of Fortune in the background for this, but as you guys already know, when it comes to fantasy booking, anybody, anytime. You guys were amazing for the G1. I'm still reeling over someone saying The Undertaker. But, Jason, there are 4 blocks. There's infinite wrestling promotions. Who would you add in each block?
Okay, that actually makes it tougher to decide, but I'm just going to kind of roll with this here because I didn't really prepare too much. But if we look, let's start with Blue Stars A, where Suzu Suzuki resides. I'm actually going to place a wrestler that I've seen perform live a couple of times. I saw her perform at a Spark Joshi show, and most recently I saw her at Forbidden Door, and that's a wrestler by the name of Lena Cross. So I'm going to throw her in Blue Stars A to fight people like Hanako, B. Priestley, Suzu Suzuki, and be that like domineering force of will against the Hinas and the Miyu Amasakis, and of course against the Rattlesnake Stone Cold Rion as well. So that's my first pick.
I like that.
Do you want me to continue just through all the blocks here?
Of course.
Oh gosh, okay. All right, let's go to Blue Stars B. I actually don't know who I'm going to pick, but because this is such a compelling block, there's so much story already baked in. There's so much uncertainty here. We may actually want to just do something completely bizarre because we've already got just the utmost potential in this block. So let's just make things completely ludicrous. So that, one night we're having Saya Kamitani versus Momo Watanabe and everyone's crying in the front row. And then the next night we fill the ring with a whole host of bubbles because I'm going to pick Momoka Hanazono to go into Blue Stars B and just be the absolute zaniest she can possibly be and just mess with people the whole time.
That is such a zany pick. I was not ready for that. Wow. That was good.
So just so we have some counter programming in that block a little bit. Now, where do I want to put this wrestler? I guess I'm going to put her here. So Red Stars A, another performer that I was really impressed to see wrestle live, was in Vegas this year. And we've got Tomoka Inaba throwing out head kicks. We've got Micah slamming people. We've got Rina doing the judo throws. We've got Sayaka Kurata spearing people. We just need someone to show up as a true badass in a leather jacket. So I'm picking Miyu Yamashita from TJPW to join this absolute block and make it even cooler than it currently is. Just rise the star power up a couple of notches and get a little bit of TJPW flavor so that it can balance out Maki Ito in Red Stars B.
I was not expecting Yamashita, and if you were going to say, I was expecting her in the same block as Ito.
Yeah, I wanted to go a little bit outside the lines there. So now with Red Stars B, I've got it. I've already got it. So I can't wait to see this person facing Maki Ito. I can't wait to see this person facing Mei Sarah. I can't wait to see this person facing some familiar foes, such as Saya Ida, familiar foes such as Utami Hayashishita. But that particular match happened in another promotion because the B in Red Stars B stands for Bozilla, making her devastating return. She shows up wearing a Rina Yamashita Halloween mask, and then she tears it off, and it's Bozilla. How did she get here? And
that would actually be like
pure
a surprise.
Chaos ensues.
That would be like true surprise. She'd be my winner because no one would be prepared.
Exactly.
Oh, good fantasy booking. A lot of that caught me by surprise. Damn, how do I top that? Or how do I even compare? Okay, so for Red Stars A block, from AEW, I think it's only fair that we get a little bit more variety and a lot more positivity. I think I'm going to add Willow Nightingale to the Red Stars A block, as I think her and Azmi would have some fun. I feel like in the first 5 minutes, Willow would try to put more positivity in Natsuko Tori's spirits. And I think her and Aoki would be best friends, like within the first 2 minutes. I don't know how, but I think just the nice to meet you will immediate best friends. Now, Red Stars B block, honestly, because we somehow in the 7 years or 6 or 7 years where we've been robbed of this match, I am going to put Julia in Red Stars B so we can finally get that Utami versus Julia match. Don't know how we haven't gotten it, but we're getting it in fantasy booking. Now, as for Blue Stars A, there's a lot of wild and zany characters here already. But since you've said Miyu Mashita, I guess the only thing I can say in a comparison fighting fashion is Scandinavian Hurricane. If you guys remember, she was a God's Eye member for about the length of a cup of coffee. But she's a really good striker, and I wish I saw more of her. Now, for Blue Stars B, this person's been in my mind probably since fantasy booking. But shout out TJPW, as I think she is arguably the strongest in Joshi. Miyu Watanabe. I would love to see her swing the likes of like Ami. Just true strength right there. That is true strength. Just imagine her swinging Ami. Ooh, or even Starlight Kid. The lighter, the better. The faster. Wow. But, guys, that was everyone we've had for fantasy booking. So you guys let us know who your fantasy bookings is. But with all of that being said, now we are about to finally hit the finals. So thank you, everyone that's been commenting. Blood Money, Jason. I know that we'll be plugging your stuff, but Blood Money, Blitz, Al, all you guys, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for commenting. But Jason, where can the viewers and listeners find you?
Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. You can find me on the String Six Splash YouTube channel. You can either search for String Six Splash. It's the word six. It's the word string, the number 6, the word splash. You can also just search for Red Belt Radio. That's a series I've been doing covering Stardom for quite some time now. That should be able to help you locate me. We've been doing a lot of coverage of Stardom this year, and coverage of the 5-star has already begun. I've got a viewer's guide to the 5-star GP this year, breaking down pretty much everything you need to know, how you can watch the 5-star, and what wrestlers and matches to pay attention to. I've, of course, got the 5 signs that Starlight Kid wins the 5-star, which breaks down a case at several different cases for the Sky Tiger, including an honorable mention to go along with it. And tomorrow evening, 9 p.m. Eastern, July 12th, Sunday, there will be yet another live stream taking place covering the 5-star. We're going to go into the matches going on the opening night. We're going to go into the IWGP title match between Shuri and Natsupoi, and a lot more. That's going to feature the legendary Meerkat Ultra. So be sure to tune in for that. You can also find me on Twitter or Blue Sky. Just look for String Six Splash. And if you do want to contact me, you can email me. My email is string6splash.pm.me. So that's about all I've got. But yes, thanks very much for having me aboard.
It's always fun having you here, man. Um, hey, you might be here for other stuff. I'm over there on Red Belt Radio for other stuff. Just always respect these fun collabs, guys. Um, and I appreciate everyone that's been here. We've been doing this for about 2 hours and some change now. So, Jason, my apologies if I've kept you overtime, but we never really have a dead set time frame for this. So OT is basically inevitable. But we are about to hit the finals, guys. So I hope you guys are looking forward to the finals the same way we are. So we have talked about our final four. My four being Azumi, Suzu, Saya Kamitani, and Utami Hayashishita. So, wait, would you like to talk about your final four and who you think will be the winner?
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so my final four as it stands, on the red side, we've got Queen's Quest lore, but not the lore that a lot of people are expecting. We've got Azumi versus Utami Hayashishita going down. These two, from my recollection, have always been able to put on a hell of a match in the 5-star GP. And on the other side, the unlikely pairing against all odds, making it to the semifinals, Hina versus Starlight Kid. And we're going to see that power and confidence of Hina going up against the veteran savvy, the tricks, the high flying nature of Starlight Kid. Kind of picturing Hina having Starlight Kid up in the jackhammer, something like that, and Starlight Kid pulling out the rarely seen Momo latch, maybe to get a surprise roll up on Hina, as Azumi does the same with some kind of combination of Canadian Destroyer and double, triple, quadruple Azumi Sushi of some kind. And although we won't be getting the obvious 5-star final, which I think will be a great final if it happens, of Kamitani versus Hayashishita, we will be getting another piece of destiny, which will be Azumi versus Starlight Kid. It seems that every year, these two put on a very high stakes match. Going back at least as far as 2022, maybe even further. They battled for the high-speed title in 2022 and 2023, both times match of the year contenders. They battled at one of the biggest shows of all time, All-Star Grand Queendom, last year for the white belt, with not only the Wonder of Stardom title on the line, but leadership of Neo Genesis on the line. And yeah, definitely check the video. There's a lot of reasons that I think this final is coming together, but I think they're going to put on yet another absolute masterclass. And they're going to do it where the lights are absolutely the brightest. And if this does come together, I think this will be such a beautiful moment to enjoy between the two. I will be extremely kind of happy for them. They are so deserving of being able to main event and a tournament as prestigious as the 5-star. And in true fashion, sorry to say, Enigma V4, that although she would be heavily favored for being a returning 5-star finalist, I'm going to stay true to my initial prediction in my video and grant the 2026 5-star Grand Prix crown to Starlight Kid, the Sky Tiger, dancing in the night sky, the person who may be destined to dethrone Suzu Suzuki after their many years of competing against each other in tournaments, and maybe the person that will defend the red belt title against Saya Kamitani at one of the biggest shows of 2027 as well. So there you have it.
I love that. I love that you stuck to your guns. Honestly, I was kind of certain that you were going to pivot from your video here, but hey, you stuck to it through and through, and I love that. So, with my final four being Saya Kamitani versus Azumi and Suzu Suzuki versus Utami Hayashishita, I know what everyone's craving. I know, and I've heard, and I'm listening. We want the Aphrodite finals. It's the only way that we can get Utami versus Saya. It's the only way. It is inevitable. So, with that being said, Azumi beats Kamitani. Oh, oh, I'm sorry. But I have Azumi beating Saya Kamitani, avenging her loss and her loss of the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, making it to the finals once again. And I have Suzu Suzuki beating Utami Hayashishita. So neither members of Aphrodite will be making it to the finals. I feel like out of all the conversations I've had with all my friends, I feel like I just robbed just about everybody for what I've been saying. I know. I've been saying we need the Aphrodite finals, but you guys know me. I need Azumi winning the 5-star more. I have an agenda to push, and it ain't stopping here. Not for Aphrodite lore, not for anyone. So the Stardom 5-star Grand Prix finals will be Azumi versus Suzu Suzuki. And I know what some people are thinking. Enigma, why are you having the World of Stardom champion in the finals? Oh, that's because I'm just copy paste. Because in another promotion where a world champion was in the finals, a former Queen's Quest member beat them and then challenged them for another pay-per-view. So we're just going to do that again. So, my predictions in the most unbiased fashion ever. Who do I think will win the 5-star Grand Prix?
Perhaps third time is in fact the charm. And I think this marks the very first time that we both have nominated Azumi as the 5-star finalist. So we're really all in right now. And we might be in for a rude awakening, or we might end up looking like geniuses.
We just might be. I do like that we both basically said, no, Aphrodite is not the finals.
Yeah, it seems like a faux pas. At least one of us needed to pick that, but we have committed sacrilege, and now we're probably going to look like complete fools.
If that is the finals, god damn it! But it's okay. But guys, that was everything. That was the Stardom 5-star Grand Prix predictions. Jason, again, thank you so much for being here, viewers, listeners. Whether you guys are looking at the screen or this is just background noise to you, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for all the comments. I know the G1's going on, and I know Collision was on, but you guys chose to watch Talk for Glory. Thank you for that. So, Jason, one more time, where can they find you?
Just check out String 6 Splash on either YouTube, Twitter, or Blue Sky. You can also search for Red Belt Radio on YouTube as well. It's the word string, the number 6, and the word splash. Thanks again for having me.
All right. And with that, guys, you guys already know how we close this out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay safe. Have a great day and or night. Hope you guys enjoyed the G1. Hope you guys enjoyed Collision. Hope you guys have enjoyed listening to Talk for Glory. But again, hope you guys stay safe. Have a great day and or night, because time zones are weird and confusing. Don't stalk your favorite wrestlers. You're weird for that. But most importantly, guys, enjoy wrestling.